I'm
stage share with you
feeling
our experience of creating a wellbeing strategy and some of the initiatives we've put in place and the impact that we've seen. And I'm going to tell you about why we decided to focus on wellbeing and talk about the strategy we developed, and then I'll hand over to Laurie to take you through how we went about designing the programme and what we've done since we first launched it. But before that, a little bit of background about Hyde and what we do. So we are a housing association, and we were established back in 1967 to provide homes for those left behind by the market. We're now one of the largest housing associations, managing and owning over 50,000 homes and housing more than 100,000 residents. But we are a not-for-profit organisation, and our family of companies that make up the Hyde Group do include charities and some profit-making subsidiaries, and the money that we make from that is used to build more homes for those that are excluded from the housing market. So the homes that we build, as well as the ones we already own, include things like shared ownership, social rent, outright sale, and private rent. And our vision as an organisation is to provide a great home for everyone, with a mission that is to provide more people with a roof over their head so that they can make a home. Our housing stock is all the way from Peterborough to Chichester, but as you can see from the map there's a lot of it in London and the southeast along the south coast from Southampton to Chichester, and that's basically because that's where we originated. So when we were first formed in 1967, it was a street just outside Lewisham in southeast London, and we've grown out from there. In terms of our staff, we've got 12 offices across that whole geography. Some of them have got a couple hundred people in, some are only small offices that might have 20 people. And we also have some very small scheme offices where 1 or 2 people will be sat in a room on one of our residential schemes. So a real mix of how people are situated in their working life and how we can communicate with them. As it says on the slide, we've got just over 1,100 staff, and 55% of them are women. We've got a real range of workers. We've got support services in our head office who are in the office most of the time. We've got a couple of call centres, one in Lewisham, one down on the south coast in Chichester, where obviously those staff are at their desk on the phone pretty much all the time. We've also got resident-facing staff who spend quite a lot of their day out and about going to see our residents. And then we've got just over 100 remote workers who are our trades guys who spend their whole day in a van or someone else's kitchen or bathroom, either doing repairs or fitting new kitchens and bathrooms. So they don't have access to a computer at all in their working day. So we need to be really mindful of that when we're thinking about how we communicate these kind of things to our people. Range of ages, we've got staff from 16 to over 65, and our average age is 45. And 700 staff, so almost 70% of our staff have been with us for more than 3 years. So, why wellbeing? If we go back, all the way back to 2014, which seems an awful long time ago now, our annual staff survey indicated that about 30% of our staff felt we didn't take their health and safety seriously. And that was a concern for us, but we didn't know what that meant. So we did some focus groups and we did some discussions and went out and spoke to staff about that particular aspect of the survey. And one of the reasons that came through was it was actually about people feeling that we weren't connected to their wider well-being rather than it being specifically about health and safety. In addition to that, our overall staff engagement levels had been static for some years, and they were stuck in the mid-60s, around 67%. So we needed a new approach to try and improve that overall engagement, and that was something that was really key for our executive team. They wanted to see that improve. So given to the response to the question that we had about health and safety, we decided to focus on well-being to try and shift that engagement score. At the time, Business in the Community had just brought out their WorkWell model, which looked at well-being and engagement together holistically. So we thought that would be a really good place to start. It was early research, but we thought, why not? We just jumped onto it and we made it our own. And we did a gap analysis against that model. And it showed that we had quite a number of the building blocks in place already, but also we could do more to focus on early intervention, rehabilitation for physical and psychological health issues, but also continuing to invest in some of the health-related benefits that we had and linking the benefits with the overall well-being side of things. The previous year, we had launched our flexible benefits programme, iFlex, and that was really different for our sector. We were one of the first housing associations to implement a true flexible benefits platform. And that was really well received, with almost 70% of our staff engaging with it, going in and doing something different with their benefits. And the exec team were really, really pleased with that, and it gave them the appetite to continue to want to do something differently and to be a leader in the sector, which made the discussion with the exec for us about why wellbeing that little bit easier. So in terms of the strategy that we came up with, we used the gap analysis and the feedback from the focus groups to develop it. And key to it and underpinning the strategy is that we view health and wellbeing as a partnership between our individual employees and us as the employer. We expect staff to take responsibility for their own health and wellbeing, but we want them to feel that we take their wellbeing seriously. So the key elements of the strategy, which are shown up on the slide, but we were particularly focused on providing information to our employees and signposting the external resources that are available for them. Also creating wellbeing champions, and Laurie will talk a little bit more about that later. I think that's one of the things that was really, really key for us. And continuing to provide our health-related benefits. What helped us in getting our exec team buy-in was their desire to be different. They wanted to improve engagement, which meant improving the perception around health and safety and well-being. But it was really their desire to want to be different and to be a leader in our sector, and that really helped. The other thing was that because our FlexBends platform had been so successful, we had generated far higher NI savings for the organisation than we expected, so we could use some of those savings to put towards a budget for the wellbeing. So in terms of the programme that came from this, to deliver the strategy, we introduced our wellbeing programme, and Being Well, our innovative programme covering all aspects of wellbeing, was born. Again, we weren't scared to be different. And if you think back, this was back in 2014. At the time, most organisations we spoke to had 3 strands within their wellbeing programme, and none of them included anything about financial wellbeing. But that was really important to us, and it was something that we had picked up from talking to our staff when we went out and about around the business. So we decided, why not? We went with it, and we had our 4th pillar, which was around the financial well-being. And interestingly, when you talk to people about well-being today, 4 years later, it's pretty standard to see 4 pillars and something around financial well-being. The programme that we've got is holistic, and it incorporates wellbeing and benefits and supports our business strategy. It is driven by staff input, and again, that is really key, and revolves around the 4 pillars that are up there. Now, some of those are easier to deliver than others, and again, Laurie will tell you a bit more about that later. But given staff input, it is a dynamic and evolving programme, and we try to make sure that we've got something for everyone in that programme. So just in terms of, some of these will be quite obvious, but in terms of our 4 pillars, Live Well is all about physical well-being, promoting a healthy lifestyle for people. Cope Well is about mental health, coping with pressure and resilience. Work Well is where we focus on ensuring that our employees have a good working environment and can manage their work-life balance. And Spend Well is my financial well-being, that was all about making money go further, debt management, pension, the discount site that we've been working using with Reward Gateway for years, that we just brought all together and packaged in terms of our staff being able to make their money go a bit further. And before I hand over to Laurie, just to say, 4 years later, we're delighted that we're now getting the external recognition around our approach to well-being. We have won a number of awards this year, and personally, I'm really proud at the comment that was made by the judges at our most recent success. And they said that they were impressed with the way that our strategy connects with our business goals, They applauded the clear four-pillar approach and the fact that the programme continues to evolve in response to employee needs and feedback, and commented that they felt we had a sustainable universal strategy that was broad enough to offer something for everyone, which was what we set out to do 4 years ago, and they summed it up perfectly for me. So on that note, I will hand over to Laurie to tell you a little bit more about how we actually went about introducing this programme.
Thanks, Sarah. So, what did we do? So once we had the programme established with our 4 pillars, we then had to look at designing the detail about what we were going to deliver under each of the pillars. So first thing we did was we went out and we spoke to our staff, which we think designing anything needs to be key, needs to be done in conjunction with your employees. So with the help of the wider HR team, we went out and visited every office and did lunchtime drop-in sessions with staff at that office to speak to them about wellbeing, to tell them that we were launching this programme and to get their initial feedback. First of all, to understand if employees knew what we already had on offer that sat under wellbeing. We already had a number of health-related benefits through our flexible benefits platform. But actually going out to speak to staff, we found out that a lot of those staff weren't aware of what we already had in place. We also spoke to staff about what wellbeing issues they were facing to try and understand what initiatives we could put in place to support them. We were quite clear that we didn't want to sort of prescribe to people what they needed. We really wanted to get their feedback to understand exactly what their needs were. At this stage, when looking at what benefits and initiatives we can put in place, we spoke to some of our other benefit providers. So we found that especially a lot of the risk and insurance benefits, they do have a lot of free add-ons, other resources that you can take advantage of to sort of package up and add into your wellbeing programme. So at this point, we then used our staff intranet. We have a dedicated HR hub. So we designed a specific wellbeing section where we initially just repackaged everything that we already had in place to form the wellbeing programme. On the right there, you can see we also used iSave, which is our discount site with Reward Gateway, to help launch the programme by designing the specific tiles and launching what we were putting in place. As Sarah said, we've had high engagement with iSave already. We had 70% of staff already logging in and registered, so it was a really good method to help communicate. Also made sure we had a section on our flexible benefits platform highlighting all of the wellbeing information, just to make sure anywhere you went, regards to rewards or benefits, it was all interlinked. At this stage, we also went out to recruit our 10 wellbeing champions. So they've really helped us shape and deliver the programmes locally. So these are really keen members of staff who really want to champion wellbeing in their office. So we use them to get feedback from staff, to help communicate ideas locally, but also to help us come up with new ideas and initiatives underneath the different strands. Being a housing association, we didn't have an unlimited budget, so we made sure that we exhausted all of our free and low-cost resources through running sort of in-house projects, using it with different members of the team, support from the wider HR team, internal comms as well, and then, of course, our wellbeing champions. As luck would have it, we also had an all-staff conference scheduled in for a couple of months after we'd launched the programme. So we took advantage of this to, again, help launch the programme and communicate all of the benefits that we had on offer. At the staff conference, we have a marketplace with lots of stalls. So we invited all of our health benefit providers to come along, set up a stall, with their leaflets, a few freebies for the ones that could, so they could speak to staff about the individual benefit. We also got staff feedback by getting them to vote, to say that we wanted to put in a new wellbeing initiative and to get them to vote on which one they wanted to see first. So we'd taken the ideas from feedback from when we had run the drop-in sessions, and the resounding winner was running some workplace massage programmes. As you can imagine, I think it was about 90% or something voted for that. So we did trial that, and that has been really, really popular. So we've now put in a few sort of like throughout the annual programme.
And I don't think there's any way we could ever remove it.
No. So that was all back in sort of early 2015. So what have we been doing since then? Our wellbeing programme is constantly evolving as new concerns come to light through staff feedback and external research that we carry out. We're always aiming to introduce new benefits and to try and be creative to ensure that we're trying to provide the best wellbeing support for all of our employees. So the way we've been sort of communicating, running the programme for the last few years is designing an annual programme in conjunction with the wellbeing champions and the staff reps, splitting the year up into quarterly themes, which in the main tie in with the different pillars. So for example, one quarter we had a focus on nutrition and healthy eating. Another quarter we focused on mental health, specifically stress. Another example was a keep moving quarter, obviously focusing on keeping moving and physical well-being. Through the programme, we make sure that we utilise all of the communication channels that we have available to us. So communicating the programme through our all-staff emails, through the HR hub on the intranet. We have an internal online magazine where we'll put in case studies of so real-life examples of employees taking up one of the benefits or one of the initiatives they've got involved in and how it's helped or supported them. And then also through our flexible benefits and iSave discount site. We use the champions to communicate and signpost information and resources locally. We do have that spread of offices across the country. HR team are predominantly based in the head office in London, so it's difficult to get that face-to-face. So the wellbeing champions have been absolutely great in that, speaking in their local team meetings, putting posters up in the office, speaking to staff at lunch, and then also getting the feedback back from staff, which is really key. Anything new that we put in place, we will always look to trial first. Once we trial an initiative, we'll get the feedback, look at the results, then decide if it's something we want to continue with ongoing, something we might run as a one-off, or something that just fell flat on its face and we're going to scrap. We've had a few of those, so we'll say, don't be afraid to admit that something didn't work and it wasn't, what you thought it was going to be. So a few sort of practical examples of what we've done under each of the strands. It does sound like a lot, but this has been over the sort of the last 3 years, so we didn't do all of this at once. We do split everything out, so it's we're just launching one thing at a time. So under Spend Well, we already had our pension and flexible benefits. We had a provider come in to talk about mortgage advice and run some seminars with staff. So that went down really well. We also introduced the loan product with a sort of a financial hub, debt management, and then a loan product that staff could take out to help manage their debts. We ran the Virgin Pulse Global Step Challenge. Don't know if anyone's run that or heard of it. We launched that a few years ago. That was really, really popular. We saw some great results. So it's where staff get into teams of 7, measure their steps over 100 days, and with the aim of increasing your activity and cause some great competition in the office. Healthy lunches was sort of a free thing that we organised where staff got together in teams. This is during our nutrition focus. Got staff to bring in sort of healthy dishes that they've made themselves or bought and then share it with each other. So good for the sort of social side as well. Something recent that we introduced a few months ago was vitamin D testing. So we've had staff come in, providers come into a number of our offices and do vitamin D testing. Feedback was great, and we've actually had a number of staff now taking supplements as they found out that they were deficient. Under Cope Well, we ran some Healthy Mind, Healthy You events with our staff reps. It was something that they wanted to do around mental well-being. Again, so we were just highlighting resources that we already had in place. So, free information with Mind, our employee assistance programme, letting staff know where they could go if they were sort of having any struggles. We also trialled some chill rooms. So took some meeting rooms out of action for a week and used it for a safe space where staff could go and relax, focus on some mindfulness. We had some of the adult colouring books as well. Fortunately, that was one that didn't really take off. Feedback wasn't great. We actually found out that staff would rather have the meeting rooms for meetings. And work well. So this is probably the one that we struggle with the most to come up with any sort of initiatives that we can run or benefits we could put in place. So at the moment, we've really just been using that to focus on the HR policies that we have in place around sort of work-life balance, working from home, sort of highlighting flexible working as well. So measuring success is, of course, key, as we've said. So just wanted to share some examples of feedback that we've had through running the Global Challenge. After any initiative we run, we do use surveys and staff feedback to measure the success. So with the Global Challenge, automatically through the programme, staff are surveyed before and after the event so that we can clearly see the increases in the metrics. So I won't go through all of those, but, you know, seeing that 62% of staff saw a decrease in stress levels was really great. And also being more aware of the Hyde's commitment to health and wellbeing. So 57% saw that go up, which again was one of our key aims of the strategy. We'll mention, obviously, this doesn't represent all of our staff, but we did have 30% of our workforce actually take place in this challenge. So it was still 300 staff members, which was great. As we do have a limited budget, anything that we put in place, we do have to be restricted on the budget. So, for example, when running the Global Challenge, we limited it to a certain number of teams so that we can manage that budget. But we found as long as you're communicating to staff that, you know, it is first come, first serve, we didn't seem to get too much negative feedback.
Just made them even more competitive.
Yes. So measuring the success of the programme as a whole, we actually include wellbeing questions as part of our all-staff survey. We run the all-staff survey, the engagement survey, once a year and have 3 pulse surveys throughout the year in between, one of which has a specific focus on wellbeing. And this year, that focus was on stress. But we did have the generic question in there about how staff felt, how seriously staff feel Hyde take their wellbeing. We also had a free box question about what could Hyde do to improve our wellbeing offer. So it was really great that the majority of the comments were really, really positive, with just some examples there, you know, saying Hyde's gone above and beyond what's required. Employees think it's fantastic, it's perfect. So this is really good, you know, feedback to the exec team to show, you know, how the staff are feeling. As I said, majority of positive, obviously were some negative and suggestions, which we did focus on as well. And we actually got together as a full HR team as one of our away days to focus on the survey and the feedback that we had around wellbeing to see if there was any specific themes that came out. And what we actually found was the majority of negative feedback was due to staff understanding and awareness of what we had on offer. Still. So we're now working with our internal comms this year to put together a really short video that we can send out to staff, just sort of 2 minutes or so, where they can see a quick overview of all the different things we have on offer and where they can go to get that specific detail to try and boost staff's awareness still. Also planning to, as a HR team as a whole, we want to try and be more visible. So making sure that we're getting out to all of the offices, as you know, drop-in sessions for any HR questions, but also to try and promote wellbeing and the whole benefits, really. So staff feedback is obviously key, but it does need to go through into the business metrics. And one thing that we found was we did not see a massive impact originally. So when we first launched the programme, you know, we didn't see very much of a change in these metrics, which was quite disappointing, but now we can see that we've got there. So in the one that did see an immediate increase in the first year was to the question, do you think Hyde takes their wellbeing seriously? So that was at 60%. In the first year after launching the programme, that did go up by 7%. And has now increased even further up to 76%, which we're really happy with. But what we've seen is we really needed to get the wellbeing sort of embedded into the culture with our staff before we could see it really making a difference. And now we've seen that sort of feed into the employee engagement, going up to 81% last year. Absenteeism is now decreasing, and also so is voluntary turnover. So I will now hand back to Sarah just to let you know what we are planning on doing next, and some key points to take away.
Thank you. So, as Laurie said, what next? And, we do want to continue to evolve this and to make sure that we've got things that are changing and being introduced. So, in terms of our Live Well and Cope Well pillars, we will continue to implement new initiatives, but what we want to do is try and get more targeted with those programs. So a couple of weeks ago, we held our first ever men's health event, which focused on prostate cancer. We could have had hardly anybody turn up, but actually it went really well. And the feedback was, we want more of this. And it was really nice to feel that you wanted to focus on us as a group and do something for us. We've also, we have a women's network, and up until now that's been very much about career and career progression, but we're thinking about doing something similar and looking at what could we do from a women's health point of view, and perhaps doing something around menopause, which is something that everybody has to deal with at some point. And we've also got a carers network, and we want to do a lot more around resilience for working carers and growing that network. So those will be a real kind of focus for us in terms of our targeted programs. On the Spend Well pillar, we are going to be introducing financial education, and that's not just about what to do at retirement, but starting early in terms of, today there are no guaranteed pensions for most people, so you need to start planning so much earlier about what you want to do. So there will be phases in terms of the seminars and what people get invited to discuss around what stage they are in their career and what might be important to them. On the Work Well pillar, we're going to be doing more to promote volunteering. At the beginning of this journey, we did introduce a volunteering policy, and take-up hasn't been as great as we would have liked. So we're going to focus on that and try and get more of our staff to make use of the 2 days paid volunteering leave that we give people, and see if we can actually partner with an organisation to help encourage that as well. And there will be more work around metrics. We need to continue to give that feedback to our executive team that there is a business impact from all of this. So we're going to think about whether or not we can find a way to link to productivity. But also, we've got our IIP reassessment this year. So we are going to go and hope to get their wellbeing standard as well as just doing IIP. And we've had IIP Gold for a number of years now. So we're busy looking at the additional work that's needed to see whether or not we can stretch for platinum now that they've got that additional level. And we're going to continue to work with our staff reps. The men's health event we've just run went really well. The Healthy Mind, Healthy You event that Laurie mentioned earlier went really well last year. And they want to do more of that. So we're working with our union and our staff reps around things that we can partner on, which again really helps to reinforce to our staff that we are supportive of all of this. And then our final bit of information, we just thought it would be helpful in terms of some top tips. So for us, having gone through this journey, I think, absolutely key, and I can't emphasize it enough, speak to your staff. Go out there, find out what they do and don't know about what you do, what they'd like to see. Because when you're introducing new things, if you're able to say, this is what people have asked for, and then show whether it worked or whether it didn't in terms of why you might continue with something, do it as a one-off, or scrap it altogether, it just really helps with that engagement. The one that we were disappointed about, but again, having gone through that process, don't expect immediate results. These things do take time, and it needs to embed before you're going to start to see that change in things like your engagement scores. Really important to get the right wellbeing champions. These are the face of what we're doing, these people out in our regional offices and the smaller schemes where, we can't be there every day. So having them to work with us and to be part of developing the program so that they own it and they can really talk about it as well when they're talking to their own offices. And they know what works with the staff in their office. And one of the things we've been really clear about from the beginning is we might have a theme that's coming out from the centre, but if something different within that's going to work in your office, then you go ahead and do that. So when we're doing our Keep Moving quarter, for example, some offices it's all about the global Virgin Pulse challenge. In others, it's just about a team of us getting together to do a lunchtime walk or doing an evening cycle ride. And they do what works for them in their offices, which really helps us with what we're doing. And you can do it on a limited budget. You know, there are so many resources out there and free add-ons that you get with other benefits. It's really worth having those conversations to find out what else you can get access to. So that's, if we were starting again, we'd do all of that on day one. Okay, and that's everything from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.